Hello, Gerton's Gardeners. This is Karen coming to you from our seed aisle. We're going to be talking a little bit about winter sowing. As you can see, our seeds have arrived. How do you know what's going to be successful in a winter sowing program? The first thing I want to talk about is what not to pick. So right here we have one of my favorite summer blooming plants. This is zinnia. This is cut and come again zinnia, which is the main kind that I personally grow because it's an heirloom. Zinnias hail from Mexico. And what do they not have in Mexico? Really cold winters. That means that if I were to put this seed out in a winter sowing environment, the seed would probably die. Never select a zinnia, marigolds, petunias, tomatoes, peppers. None of those hot growing plants are appropriate to select. Make use of the resources here at the Garden Center. We are always so happy to answer your questions. One of the things that you can do is look on the back, and here it says, plant after all danger of frost. And what that means is that these seeds and these seedlings do not like the cold. So of course they are not an appropriate type to use for your winter sowing. So anytime you see start after danger of frost, please do not use that in a winter sowing. Now, of course, buy your zinnia seed right now. Throw it in the drawer. That way you have the best possible selection. We encourage you to get all your seed at the beginning of the season. As you can see, the store is quite quiet, which makes for a very relaxing shopping experience. And you have the absolute best selection we can possibly offer you at this time of year. What are some of the really appropriate plants that you can use in a winter sowing environment? Generally speaking, most perennial seed is very, very good at surviving the winter. Otherwise, how would the plant reproduce? It wouldn't be able to, right? So if you are working with a Minnesota hardy perennial, unless it's a spring blooming perennial in some cases, like a columbine that blooms right away in the spring and then the little seedlings are going in the autumn, those actually prefer a warmer temperature. But a lot of summer and autumn blooming perennials are spectacular at using in winter sowing. So here I have a couple of my favorites. A balloon flower that's platycodon, and of course you've seen balloon flower out on our nursery lot. This is a very, very traditional cottage garden plant. And of course we have delphinium. So this is imperial larkspur, a type of delphinium, and these also do really, really well at winter sowing. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about natives, and everyone knows that you should get more natives into your garden. And here I have two awesome selections. Of course, for native plants, a lot of times we're trying to encourage our pollinators, our local pollinator populations, and the best possible way to do that is provide your local pollinators with the plants that they know, with the plants that they've evolved to feed from. And so here I have two excellent options. I have showy milkweed. And of course, milkweed is a host to our wonderful monarch butterflies. They use the flowers, their babies eat the leaves. So this is a really, really important food plant for our local monarch populations. Milkweed has to have a vernalization period in order for the seed to wake up in the springtime. That means it must be subjected to cold. It wakes up in the spring. Vernal is spring. So this is a seed that is sown in the autumn by the plant. You see the fluffy milkweed seeds. If you've harvested any kind of native seed, you have to get it into the winter, okay? It's not going to grow in the spring if you don't get it cold. So this is a spectacular option. I love the fact that the butterflies are coming and landing in my yard. They're drinking the nectar from the flowers. The little caterpillars, which are so cute, are eating on the leaves, and that's fine. That's healthy. I want them to do that. And this is another one. This is, of course, you say, Karen, that's bee balm. And it sure is. And it's also bergamot, the herb bergamot, which you may have in a tea mix. If you look in your pantry and it says bergamot, that's actually a type of bee balm. And this is a perennial wildflower. This is a great native or native adjacent plant here in Minnesota. It does really, really well, not just for bees, but all kinds of pollinators really love bergamot flowers or bee balm flowers. And it smells heavenly. Of course, it is also edible because it is an herb. You can use the flowers and the leaves in your teas, in salads, anytime you like that lemony, herby smell that bergamot has. This is an amazing plant both for pollinators and for you. Now, biennials, of course, are short-lived perennials. They usually live 2 to 3 years, and for the most part, you would plant the seed in the springtime, and then the plants will bloom the following summer. But if you're hoping for early bloom from a young plant, the best thing to do with most of your biennial is actually to winter sow. Why is that? Because you're going to get plants growing in the garden earlier. They're going to be healthy and strong, which often when you're growing them in trays inside, they may not be off to as great of a start as they will outside in the garden. And you may even get first year bloom. What a stunning plant. This is the type of campanula, which we have lots of perennial campanula. But I love campanula medium. This is cup and saucer, also known as Canterbury bell, that comes in shades of purples and pinks, and it's an absolute treasure of an heirloom plant. So it only lives about 2 to 3 years. So you have to sow this frequently, and they start off amazingly well in winter sowing conditions, because then I'm getting a few flowers right away in my summertime garden with one of my absolute favorite plants. Same thing for hollyhocks. Most hollyhocks are either biannual or a short-lived perennial. And of course, we do have some for sale in our nursery lot, but I love the old-fashioned ones, which you don't get that much in nurseries anymore because they get very tall. A lot of times, modern gardeners like to use small plants. Hollyhocks are phenomenal for bringing in hummingbirds. If you love hummingbirds, you must grow hollyhock. My daughter's name is Holly, so she loves these plants as well. So it's a fantastic kids plant because they're very easy to grow. The only thing you need to watch with hollyhocks is that the bunnies love them too. So you might want to take some protection when you get them out from your winter sowing into the garden, put a little bit of protection over them. The next category we're going to be talking about a little bit is fruiting. So this is late autumn fruiting plants. These are alpine strawberries. So I brought two kinds because alpine strawberries, you guys have heard me say this before, another one of my favorites. I have a lot of them, it's true. But I have a particular fondness for alpine strawberries because they are amongst the most well-behaved strawberry. If you've ever thrown a regular perennial strawberry in your garden, you know that it is a finer. Alpine strawberries are a different creature entirely. They are very petite. They're only about the size of the tip of my thumb. So this is a small strawberry. I guarantee you these taste amazing. They will have strawberries from June all the way till the hard freeze in October. So they're incredibly productive. The birds tend to leave them alone, especially the yellow ones. Because they can't tell that these are ripe, they actually don't eat the berries on the yellow and white alpine strawberries. So if you're looking for a bird-free strawberry by a yellow alpine, they are ridiculously easy to grow in winter sowing. You literally just throw them on the soil and forget about them. And then in the springtime, come April, you have strawberry plants to put in your garden. They work really, really well as a border plant because they're about that big and they're about that much around. So they're really small. They do not vine. They stay in their little clump. They're super, super decorative, and they are amongst the easiest plants to work with in a winter sow. Most of what I've shown you so far has been either perennials, natives, biennials. Here I'm going to talk about a couple of annuals. Anytime you hear of an annual that says it's self-seeding, that is your trick to using in a winter sow. A self-seeding plant means that that annual has seed that is cold hardy. It's going to shed that seed into your garden. And in the springtime, you're going to get more of what we like to call volunteers because they're basically free plants from the plants that you already planted. These two are some of my favorite volunteers. Here I have Chinese forget-me-not. Now, this is not Myosotis. This is Sinoglossum. That's Chinese forget-me-not, okay? So this is not the perennial forget-me-not. This is not the native forget-me-not. It is, however, a big, beautiful, blousy plant with sky blue flowers. Blue is very, very hard to find in the garden. This is a true, true blue. This is a great plant to use in a winter sowing area because you're just going to spread that seed and you're going to let it do its thing. It'll come up. You'll have tons and tons of blue forget-me-nots to use throughout the garden. And another one, the old classic viola. Now, we have lots of different violas. I grabbed Bambini because this is a less commonly planted viola. It's got lots of fun colors. Some of you may know violas as Johnny Jump Up. They are edible, just like a pansy is, because it's the same family. And violas are great at self-sowing. So, of course, you have to watch them because they will run into the yard a little bit. Honestly, I don't mind a viola in the springtime in my turf. And they make really nice small bedding plants for the front of the bed as well. Some veggies here in Minnesota do better winter sown than they do seeding directly into the garden. So I'm going to start with that. Onions. Onions can be quite tricky to grow. They love nitrogen, so you have to have a lot of nitrogen on hand to make big, fat onion bulbs here in Minnesota. This is red Weathersfield. This is an heirloom onion. This is a day length onion, or a long day onion, which means that it needs 13 plus hours of sun in the summertime, not this time of year, in order for it to set those bulbs. Okay, that's really the kind of onion you want to be growing here in Minnesota if you're looking for a bulbing onion and not just a green onion. When you're trying to grow a bulbing onion, you need to pick a long day varietal. So red Weathersfield is a long day onion, and it does really, really well in winter sowing. You're going to get nice, healthy plants. They're going to be growing strong. They're going to be ready to go into your garden just as soon as they pop their little heads up and you can work that soil. A lot of folks have phenomenal luck growing onion with winter sowing instead of trying to grow them inside where they kind of get stringy and weak looking. They're going to be nice and strong and hale and hardy and ready to go in the garden. And a couple of other crops that we have now. This is what we would call cold weather crops. So here we have Marvel of Four Seasons, and we have radishes. So this is actually a radish mix. This is the Easter egg radish mix, and this is actually a butter crunch. So this is a head lettuce. Most of the lettuce we sell is a leaf lettuce, and you can do leaf lettuce too. The reason I grabbed Marvel of Four Seasons is this actually can be sown in the autumn. So that's another trick. If you are reading a seed package and it says can be sown in the autumn, that is a clue that you can winter sow that type of seed. And Marvel of Four Seasons works great in the autumn garden, spring garden. Look at how pretty it is. First of all, what a stunning lettuce. I love red, full of anthocyanin, which means that it's healthy for you, much healthier than your typical iceberg lettuce is going to be. You can pick it young if you want to, but if you like that kind of head lettuce look, this is a great head lettuce to buy. And you're going to have head lettuce way earlier than you would normally. There really isn't a more decorative plant in the springtime because you have such pretty leaf shape and leaf color than lettuce. So I love to just grow them to have something pretty to look at when everything is just that big. Now, radishes are tricky. So radishes actually taste much more mild and sweet when they are grown in cool weather. So they are actually a phenomenal crop to grow in a winter sow because they're doing a lot of their growing and forming right as the weather is warming up, which means they're doing all that growth as early as it possibly can be while it's still cool outside, which means your radishes, when you pick them, are not going to be peppery. They're not going to be pithy. They're going to be sweet. They're going to be tender. They're going to be crisp. They're going to go right in that salad. And you're going to be so glad you winter sowed your radishes instead of waiting to plant them. I hope you enjoyed our presentation on winter sowing today. Please come see us and take a look at our amazing seed selection. We have so much to pick from. Our staff is here and so excited to answer your questions about all of your sowing needs, whether it's winter sowing, whether it's growing indoors, whether it's sowing direct in the garden. Come and see us. We're excited to see you.